Okay, well, hi everyone, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today for our professional development workshop, Retention Strategies for Early and Mid-Career Professionals. The Chamber is grateful to provide this offering free of charge to our Chamber members, thanks to the generosity of our sponsor, the College of St. Scholastica Stender School of Business and Technology. So before I go ahead and introduce to you both of our speakers, I would like to invite Rick Revor, the Dean of Strategic Development at the College of St. Scholastica, to say a few words on behalf of their sponsorship.
Yep. Thanks, Chris, and thanks to you and your team at the Chamber for offering this series. And the Stender School of Business and Technology is delighted to sponsor it. 3 years ago, we named our Business and Technology School at Scholastica in honor of Dr. Bruce Stender to recognize his impact on our region. Just a quick college update. St. Scholastica is launching a new Master's in Healthcare Administration this fall, as well as a new Master's in Not-for-Profit Leadership. And finally, thanks Andrea Chartier and Eric Mistry for presenting today.
Thank you, Rick.
Still on mute. Thanks so much, Rick. At this time, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing to you our two speakers for today to discuss a very timely topic that is impacting our workforce today. So Andrea Chartier is a career counselor at the College of St. Scholastica, and Eric Mistry is a senior instructional designer at HEAP. So together, Andrea and Eric have researched and presented on retention strategies in today's evolving workforce. They also provide consulting services on the topic. So of course, if you have questions or would like to learn more, they're open to you reaching out afterwards. So we look forward to hearing from the both of you on how our own organizations can positively impact our employees for that greater retention. So Andrea and Eric, please, thank you for being here and take it away.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, Chris. So Eric and I began the conversation of this presentation many years ago, several years ago. We've been colleagues for a number of years. Both of us live in an innovative, strategic mindset and often share ideas of where we think the world is going and how we're going to get there. And one of the conversations we began having at an early stage was the idea of how do we begin to create pathways that retain those mid-career professionals, and realize through the process that it's also a strategy for some of the early career professionals that we serve as students through the College of St. Scholastica and other local colleges as well. So today, since we kind of came up with this presentation and presented it, you might notice that this is the topic on every newsfeed, every channel, across LinkedIn. The conversation has really ramped up as of late in terms of retention being a huge priority. And so we're going to ask you to engage in some conversation along the way. We're going to give you some facts, but really what we want you to walk away with at the end of this is a tangible way that you can, in fact, make change at your organization with an intentional focus on retention.
Yeah, and I think just to continually think about this is in March of 2020, early March, there was a lot of things that were like, it's impossible for, X, Y, or Z to happen with the job. And then we all went fairly remote very quickly, almost overnight. So thinking about what we can do under duress, what can we do if we can plan for it, if we can envision, if we can access the resources? So let's start us off. So who are we? Go ahead.
Happy to be here with you today. Again, my name is Andrea Chartier. My professional role is as a career counselor at the College of St. Scholastica, where I serve students, alumni, and pre-admitted students on their journey through career exploration and career development. And career changing is a lot of what we're seeing these days as well. And so a lot of what we're presenting today is things that were informed from individuals who are in the career changing phase and figuring out why are they leaving. We're going to bring that here forward today. 3 quick facts about me. I am a boomerang Duluthian. I grew up here, left, and came back. I feel like that influences a lot of the way that I see the world. I just heard this term recently. I like it. I'm a millennial grandma. So I'm at the very edge of the millennial generation. I grew up without internet in the home, didn't have a cell phone until college, but then at the kind of college break had the cell phone internet. So I've seen both the pre and post and feel like that informs a lot of what I do. Additionally, I've got 4 little ones at home from ages 0 to 19, and a lot of the practice that you'll see me working about is professional parenting and how we can implement those practices in the workplace.
And hi, everyone. I'm Eric Mistry. I'm a senior instructional designer at HEAP, based out of California, and I'm formerly at the College of St. Scholastica as an instructional technologist. Yeah, my three kind of identities besides my work role. One, I'm a relatively new dad. I have a 7-month-old named Grace, who is just the best. I'm also a technologist through and through, and I think that's sometimes a dirty word, especially when we're all on Zoom. But I like to think about technology in a very humanistic way of how can technology enable us to be more human and more connected. And it's less about the shiny new thing and more about how can we use these tools to have more effective lives. Finally, I'm just a maker. I'm always building stuff, always designing stuff, always trying to create new things. So today we're going to be talking about creating the future of work. So we're going to have a lot of different ways to engage today. We're going to have breakout rooms. We're going to allow you to annotate on the screen. And we're going to do this waterfall. So this question on the screen here, put yours in the checkbox, but don't say enter until Andrea has some time to introduce it.
Why did you come here today? What are you hoping to get out of it? What are you hoping to accomplish? Why does this topic timely or interesting to you? Is it? Let us know. Go ahead and take a minute to type that down. While you're typing, we'll give you a minute to just come into this space, maybe shut out other ideas, shut out other meetings that you may have run into, so that we can really come together to intentionally focus on this topic of retention. I'll give you another few seconds to finish up your thoughts. Why did you come here today? And then I will count to 3. And on the count of 3, I would love you all to press return at that time. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead in the chat box and send yours. Great. So we're starting to see some great ideas coming in here in terms of organizational changing, part-time employees to full-time employees, what environments they can live in, what organizations can implement, how to keep up with trends, how to better understand what people are searching for, to help job seekers find long-term fits. Awesome. All of these things we hope to address in this time today. We know we only have an hour today and we could do a lot more with this time. We'd love to do a multi-day workshop on this topic, but for now we're going to give you a teaser, a taste, and hope you come away with something to help you address this. Challenges with the workforce in respect to retention and how we can create a better environment in your business. Thank you. That's exactly what we're going to get to today.
All righty, so we're going to throw you into a breakout room just with a few folks. You'll be returning to the same room throughout. So introduce yourselves a little bit and give a little bit of background on the current engagement situation and retention. Are you losing people? Are people sticking around? Are people searching? Is your leadership team engaged, or are they saying, oh, it's the great resignation, everyone's leaving everywhere? What does that look like? And if people are leaving, why do you think people are leaving your organization? So I'm going to create these breakout rooms. We'll give you about 3 minutes in each one. So those are going up. I'm going to open the rooms and away y'all go.
I'm going to broadcast those 2 questions to all, if that's comfortable with you.
Perfect.
That would be
Please.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's great. I should have a team for every presentation. I love this.
I don't normally have the speakers organize the breakout rooms, so this is great. You guys are fabulous. Oops.
We do our best. Well,
Yeah.
Let's see here. Perfect.
Hey, Lon and Kristen, do you have any questions that we can help you navigate right now?
All the breakout rooms looking good, Eric?
Yep,
terms of
I was
numbers?
just checking. We got at least 2 people in every one.
Okay, I can't see them. So
Yeah. Don't want to solo anyone. Talk amongst yourself.
Did you see that broadcast come through, Andrea?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Hopefully we know that's always quick, but hopefully you got a minute or two to check in and share your story. Kind of thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down. Do you feel like you got enough time to have that conversation? Thumbs up, we got kind of through it. Thumbs sideways, we could have kept going. Thumbs down. How did you pull me out of that? I got more to say. Okay, so definitely some more going on, but at least people had a chance to share. So I would love to welcome you at this point in time. If anybody's willing to unmute to share with us, what kind of stuff happened in your group? What did you hear other people say? What did you say? What conversations were going on?
Or throw it in the chat box, yeah.
Feel free to write it in the chat box if you're more comfortable with that too. Yeah. And we're college teachers, so we can wait for your answers. Don't you worry. What'd you hear? What's happening? Some combination of change in the workplace and demand from professionals who prefer to work from home, right? Other people seeing that as well. You can do a thumbs up again, thumbs sideways, whatever it is that you're seeing. Dave, I can see your face on my screen, so I'm going to call on you. What happened in your group? What kind of things are unfolding for you?
Well, there were two of us, and so I work at Chester Bowl, and we only have had 2 full-time year-round employees, myself and one other, and just hired a third to join our team, which is super exciting. So for me, it's hard to draw trends from that, but just trying to make sure we're a place people want to stay. But in our part-time staff, both summer camp and the ski and snowboard instructors and lift operators, we actually have more people that want positions than jobs, which is really unusual in the industry. And I think that's because of some of the deliberate work we do in our culture.
Awesome. And Dave, I'm going to encourage you when you say that deliberate work in your culture to showcase that, to make sure that's on your website somewhere, to make sure that as a leader in the community who is not dealing with retention issues, that you show us how in that process. And in your industry, one of the main leaders who's made some significant changes, Vail Mountain. If you've not read the Vail Mountain's employees retention policy, their employee care policy, it is significant, the changes that they are making and the way that they operate. And that's another great model. Looks like organizations outside of the area can recruit employees because of the remote work. Absolutely, we knew this was coming. We thought it was upon the horizon. And now all of a sudden we are competing with the tech companies on either coast. And we are suddenly in a pool where people can work from anywhere. Now, flip side of that, we also have a really incredible place to live and work. Right. So suddenly now we can also bring in talent with the idea that you could live here and you could work anywhere. Patty's asking an organization with a good policy, and we're going to talk about some examples of that today, because I think that's a good question right now, is who's doing that really well.
Yeah, the short answer to that question is the company I work for right now actually recruited me because of their policy. And it's all on their public facing website. So heap.io/careers, come say hi. So where are we today? Yeah, it really is the wild, wild west. This is a time of huge transition. We had a huge pendulum swing with the pandemic. We're seeing a lot of a pendulum swing back, but it's a very kind of jittery pendulum. So looking at a lot of surveys that have come out, and we all know surveys are only as dependable as the people answering them, but let's take it with a grain of salt. But one of the really key findings we're seeing is there's some generational differences. So 70% of participants in a LinkedIn survey said the time spent at home during the pandemic caused them to completely reevaluate their current work situation. That includes changing fields, leaving jobs, not working at all. And when you look at that by generation, 45% of Gen Z, 47% of millennials are willing to give up 10% or more of their future earnings to work remotely. That is huge. Gen Xers and boomers, 38% for Gen X, 14% for boomers. So when we're looking at who's running these organizations, they may say, oh, none of my peers want to work remotely. But when you look at the bulk of your workforce and the early and mid-stage professionals, that is a very, very strong percentage. Another really startling fact that we saw was 53% of folks who quit their jobs in 2021 completely changed their occupation or field of work. And again, generationally, for folks under the age of 30, that was 61% of those people. And we're also just seeing massive number of people quitting and going to new jobs. So in December 2021, 4.3 million people. And when you think about that and you look at various fields, that's a lot of people, a lot of movement, and movement's opportunity for everyone.
So let's take a minute. We're going to use the Annotate tool. Eric will share it with us and we'll have a chance. I want to know just how is this making you feel right now? Maybe you're like, Dave, things are going great. You're the model of the community in terms of what can retain staff. You got a smile there. Or maybe you are super panicked. Maybe you're exhausted. So with your Annotate tool, it's a tool on your screen where you can actually mark up on here, and would love for you to engage in this and let us know, circle, star, mark up how you feel about this.
Yeah, and if you don't see it, it's in the same bar that has your mute and your video. It's a little tool with a pencil that says Annotate, and it'll pop up a extra toolbar. So you can click anywhere on this screen and add your stamps as according. So,
you know, Eric, I see participants on the bottom of my screen. Participants chat, share screen, record reactions.
If you go up to the top, you'll see you are viewing Eric Mistry's screen. Next to that, you should see view options with a drop down arrow.
Oh, gotcha.
Under the drop down arrow, the third one there is Annotate. And that'll join you in the conversation.
Thanks,
Rick.
Thank you.
So a few people kind of snarly, a few people panic, some people kind of sitting back and saying what's going on. We're going to use this Annotate tool a little bit here later. So just wanted to give you a chance to try this out. Thank you.
yeah. And we'll pop onto this next one, and I will clear your annotations, as lovely as they all are.
If you were looking for reports, research, data, information on this, McKinsey & Company has the most significant data reports, really has been focusing on this issue. So one of the articles they had that this report is from was Gone for Now or Gone for Good, How to Play the New Talent Game and Win Back Workers. So reasons why people left a job without a job at hand. And this is a phenomenon we're seeing now that has been pretty rare, right? It's rare that we would see people leave their job before they actually have something else. We know that this is a point of transition when we see that. It's because of uncaring leaders, unsustainable work performance expectations. What do we do when someone is doing really well? We often give them more work without any additional pay. We reward them by working harder. Lack of career development and advancement potential. We'll be talking about that today. Lack of meaningful work, lack of employee health and well-being, inadequate compensation, always going to be a question there too. Workplace flexibility, unreliable and unsupportive people at work, an unsafe workplace environment, non-inclusive, welcoming or disconnected communities, invigorating your EDI efforts is going to be vital in this. Inadequate resource accessibility. Are you lacking resources to do your job? And geographic ties and travel demands, which again is being modified by the remote. So look at that for a minute and start to think about, are any of those reasons you think you might be losing people? Now, how do we keep them?
Yeah, and looking at kind of the what are they looking for? This is kind of a little bit of a mirror image of that same last slide. I'm going to flip on the Annotate tool, and we want you to mark which of these can you personally have a role in adding to your workplace. Can you help make things more flexible? Can you provide meaningful work? Can you be a more caring and empathetic leader? Or if you have access to the leaders, giving them the information and tools to be more caring and empathetic leaders. So go ahead, turn on the annotation tool again. Feel free to stamp anywhere that seems like you can really help with.
So one thing I often hear when I'm talking to employers about their needs, and I'm talking about this process here, is there's just nothing we can do about it, right? It's happening, things are falling apart. We just got to expect this as part of it. We know that smart companies are being proactive right now, not reactive to this response. So if you look here, you'll see all the places where you truly can make significant change. You might not be the ultimate person who can affect compensation package. You might not be the person who can even affect how performance reviews are done. But can you provide a sense of meaningful work for your departments? Can you be a caring leader? Those are things that we can control in this issue. Today, we're going to ask you, there was a great article that just came out, and they said, we know that you might not be able to do everything, but can you modify and adapt? Can you flex 5%? 5%. So what I'm going to ask you as we go through these topics today is, by the end of today, I want you to think about what is the 5% that I'm going to adapt to bring my workforce into the future.
All righty. And with that, I'll flip Annotate off and pop into the next area. So we're seeing this phenomenon of people leaving, either called the Great Resignation or the Great Transformation. And the phrasing is really, really important. And again, coming back to that McKinsey research, it's, are you having great attrition? Are people leaving you? Or are you having great attraction? Are you bringing people in because you are transforming the future of work? So continually looking at how can this experience be something that happens for your company? You want to be somewhere where the great transformation is happening, not the Great Resignation.
The world is always changing. Now is a reckoning and a pandemic, a racial reckoning and a pandemic. Before this, we had a 2008 recession and the dot-com boom. If you think you're going to come in and operate your business as if it's February 2020, you're going to get crushed. If you think you're leading the same workforce, people with the same mindset, the same mentality, the same desires, and the same priorities, you're nuts. Then you have to change or get out of the way. There's no turning back. This is the biggest reset, and that's where hope and opportunity lie. So I want you to take a minute and think about, how do we change this to an idea of hope and opportunity for our organization, right? How is this a time of hope and opportunity? If you do not actively have a committee, a committee that includes all levels of staff, not just leadership, actively working on retention and working on the employee experience, one thing I can write on that 5% list is make sure somebody's responsibility is creating the ideal work experience into the future and asking people, right? And not just at your leadership level, at all levels of your staff.
Yeah, so then again, we've got a tweet from Ariana Huffington. So thinking about this, what people are resigning from is a culture of burnout and a broken definition of success. In quitting their jobs, people are affirming their longing for a different way of living, working and living. So I'm going to throw on Annotate Tool again. And I'd love to see where do people fall on agreeing or disagreeing with this statement. Because a lot of the articles, a lot of the op-eds we're seeing is folks who have been successful in their careers, in the traditional definition of success. They've reached the top, they're getting paid well. They're still leaving because it's not fulfilling, or they're killing themselves at their job, or their environment is not a good place. We want to understand, how can we have success and have work? It's not work-life balance, it's work-life coexistence. So that's what we're seeing a lot of now. All right.
We know we've laid out the problem for you. Many of you might be feeling this in your blood and bones, right? This is all we're living. We know what the problem is. What are we supposed to do about it, right? What are we going to actually do about this? We know there's a lot of areas that we can make change. We look back at that list and say, can you read that list? How are you working and enacting in those areas? We're going to narrow it down for just a few today and give you some concrete solutions that you might be able to enact in your organizations in each of these areas. So the method we want you to think about today, and we're going to ask you to do this by the end of the today here too, is one element in your control, right? You may not supervise anybody. You might only have yourself. What can I change with myself? You might supervise a full department. You might be the boss. What is one element within your control? Who's going to help you? What do you need to do it? How are you going to do it? And then when are you going to start? So I want you to make a commitment by the end of today that I'm going to set a date and one thing I'm going to change. How are you going to change what you're at with where you're at? So some of you might be serving hourly employees, right? Flexibility work from home, if you are retail or hospitality, might not be an option, but you still can adapt to that 5%. And we'll talk about some ways how. Doing so is going to be your talent retention strategy. The 4 we're going to focus on today are human-centered policies, growing your talent internally, flexibility, and tech magic. So of all the areas we could break it down in today, we're going to address a little bit some ways to address human-centered policies, growing your own internal talent, flexibility, how do we bend without breaking, and some tech tools that are going to help you in the process with our tech guru here, Eric. So human-centered policies is where we begin today. So we know that the 9 to 5 Monday through Friday work week was designed in France in 1900. Between 1900 and 1920 was when this was formed. In terms of response to overworked industrial factory workers. In the US, this transformed in 1940 is when the substantive 9 to 5 Monday through Friday work week was invented and brought across the board, 1940. And we have not adapted that workplace in this many years. Does your work need to be done Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? Are the people you serve using your services Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? Or do you need to think about how you adapt the schedule and the serve to be able to get the work done that you need to get done? Human-centered policies mean that we will no longer allow ourselves to use the words historically or traditionally when evaluating a program or a policy. Historical and traditional things are got us where we are, but they're not getting us forward, right? So now if you're looking at things if you're doing things because they're the way you've always done them, now is the time to adapt. One thing I'm going to challenge you all to do is to mark down a time, an hour, 2 hours. If you need 2 hours, it probably should be shortened. 1 hour to review your employee handbook. And as you read the employee handbook, is it about profit? Is it about the business? Is it about success? Or are each of those policies written with humans in mind? As you read those employees, is it about profitability or is it about retention? Your employee handbook, each one of your benefits, each one of your policies is an actual concrete way that you can begin to retain your staff. But this is a switch. This is a switch in the market. We haven't had to do this for this point for many, many years, right? We had it. Many of us had Dave's situation prior. There were many more applicants for jobs than we had. This is a new place to be in. Your employee handbook should be able to be something you're proud of. If you put it back in behind a desk, if you look at it, I want you to be able to hold that up and say, this is our policies help to retain our people.
Yeah, so feel free to jump in here and share anything or throw it in the chat box. We want to know what your organizations are doing right now to make you feel valued, respected, appreciated. And if there's a wish list you've got, what do you wish they were doing? Could they give you better time off? Could they have a flexible work arrangement? Could they let you work from home? Could they give you other benefits that are what I like to call revenue neutral? Doesn't really cost anything, but it can be a really good benefit to the employee. There's a lot of ways to make people the priority. So if anyone wants to unmute, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, we'll kind of watch the chat box.
Flexibility to work from home while your kids are out sick or on break. We know for sure what that means these days, right? Having sick kids home. But you know what? The possibility, so many of us have been through this and done it successfully. So we know what we can do. And this comes down to the issue of trust, right? Trust us to do the work in the best way that we know how to do it to get it done. Other ideas. What are other things organizations could do to make you feel valued, respected, appreciated? Or what do you wish they were doing? Ben, I see on my screen. Ben Tassel, do you have any thoughts here?
What do we wish they were doing? I think I'm trying to balance between what I think and then what I hear other folks saying. And what I think it is I wish we could do a better job connecting people, like showing them how their work is benefiting the community. I work for the city of Duluth, so we're obviously serving people. And I think people sometimes get focused on, I wish I got paid more or got to work from home more. And they aren't always aware of like, hey, this little thing that you're doing, this boring thing, this helping this person out is changing their life possibly forever, or at least making for a better week or a better month for them. And so I think that's something I wish we could do more, is like help people to see the change they're making for other people and for the community.
Awesome. Absolutely. And what do we know about this next generation coming up? They are incredibly values driven. They are looking for organizations that not just say their values, but identify how they live each one. If you want a great example, Salesforce, which is recognized annually as one of the top companies to work for. On their website, their career website, some great language there about not just what their values are, but how their values interact with the employee experience, how those values are engaged. So I think that idea too, Ben, what is our worth? What's our value? How are we contributing? Good.
Yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat. Oh, good.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, seeing in the chat from Patty, acknowledging anniversary and birthday dates, acknowledging important events in your people's lives, and recognizing accomplishments, big and small. And something with that is one of the places I've worked, we actually took a survey on how do you like to get recognized? Because for some people, public recognition is like anxiety inducing. Other people, it's like the thing they need. So really understanding from each individual, what do they really want? What makes them feel appreciated? Seeing David, profit sharing, opportunities for training and skill progression. You are getting ahead of the chat on that opportunities for training and skill progression, but that's such a huge benefit. And yeah, understanding from Nancy, understanding how difficult the job is versus just years ago. There's a lot of responsibility, and kind of talking with Andrea about the history of the worker, the fact that production has gone up thousands of %, while the number of hours we work has stayed the same. If we matched hours to production, we'd probably working 10, 15-hour weeks. So yeah, things to think about. And from Patty, annual and quarterly goals created with the employee, being invited to receive training on a quarterly basis, all really great things. Thinking about growing people and making people the center of your operation. If you have great people, they're going to do it. I think there's a quote by Drucker. It's culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you've got a great strategy, but a terrible culture, you're going to fail. And if you've got a great culture, you're going to kick butt. So moving on. It's a great comic.
So oftentimes we know what the solution is, but it's just a matter of actually enacting it, right?
Yeah. And yeah, these are really complex issues. And it's going to take some engagement to get into actually fixing the problems. It's not going to be an overnight, oh, we got a single policy and it's all fixed. It's going to be iterative. And asking everyone is really helpful.
You've not yet asked your people, they have the answers. They're having the conversations, right?
Yeah, so thinking about all these human-centered policies, thinking about those long-term employees and retention. People are getting recruited every single day. I probably get 5-10 emails a day from recruiters or various other folks. And if my job isn't actively recruiting or trying to retain me, it's, you're going to go with who wants you. So making sure that employees feel like, yeah, we want you. We would still want to hire you, and you should still want to work for us every single day. Appreciation of why you've made the difference. And then this is a really key one, ensuring those spaces for truly informing direction. So when you ask employees for feedback, a lot of places just goes into a black box. And you want to say, we got this feedback. Here's what we're doing with it. Acknowledging that you've heard it, giving action steps. And wages, they aren't everything, but they are something. Like, people do have to pay money, especially with inflation being such a hot topic right now. Being able to do what you can for wages. If you're a manager, fight for your employees to get better wages. If you're a leader, look at ways that you can give people even one-time bonuses or incentives for performance. Alternative benefits, if employees save you money, maybe that goes back to them a little bit. Or if a service you're going to give to your employees, say a better health insurance or more paid leave for maternity leave or paternity leave, in my case, is that going to help you retain someone? Does the cost of them not being there for one more week mean that you don't have to spend money on recruiting and retraining and rehiring? So things like that. Giving people time to explore passions and experiment. If people are passionate about something, they're going to work extra hours. They're going to dig deeper. And having that, 1 day a week or 1 week every 2 months to work on something that's not your everyday can really help recharge people. And then boomeranging is, if someone leaves and they leave on a good note, they're going to send people back to you. If they leave on a bad note, they will burn that bridge and make sure no one will cross it again. So remember, if someone is leaving on a good note and they come back, that is probably the best endorsement for your organization. Like, I was here, I left, I missed it so much, I came back. That's somewhere I want to work. And finally, thinking about wellness models that actually meet your employee needs. We've been looking a lot into research, and there's some places that instead of giving you a gym membership, which you may already have, or you may already have access to that, they pay for a home cleaning service. They say, you only have so many hours in the day. Here's this service that takes that off your plate. So things like that, you can be really creative with these policies, but they can make a huge difference.
And if you have seen me on LinkedIn or know me in real life, you'll know I'd be amiss of taking this opportunity of not addressing your parent-centered work policies, as this is an area very near and dear to my heart. That's supposed to have an E at the end of the leave there. There's a campaign on LinkedIn going on called Show Us Your Leave, where employees or companies are challenging one another to come forward and provide example of what it is you're providing. If you are embarrassed about your leave policy, if you are embarrassed about your salaries, if you are not posting no benefits, at this point you should be embarrassed. These should be things that you should be able to be proud of, to put forward, and to stand behind. And if you can't, you can understand why you're leaving people in the process. So I'm going to give you a bunch of quick parent-centered policy ideas that you might be able to adapt, because a lot of times people say, what can I do? How can I even do any of this? The Parenting in the Workplace Institute has an established babies in the workplace policy that has been legally reviewed and established that will allow employees to bring their babies to work with them for several months of life. There's also examples on there of hundreds to thousands of other companies who have used this policy, engaged it, and done it successfully. Talk about a media piece, right? What if you thought about spending less on your marketing and more on your employee retention? Isn't that marketing in and of itself? Right? When you create these policies, it automatically becomes a marketing piece. This year, the Key Zone program, the after-school program for ISD 709, filled up in less than 15 minutes. Less than 15 minutes. How many of you have school-age employees with school-age children? Anyone have employees with school-age children? Do you know how they're going to get them home after school? Perhaps it's time now that you need to make a bus stop at your organization, that you need to collaborate among the people who have school-age children and offer a room that's empty in your office for some after-school care and help support them with maybe a high school student who can come in and help staff that. If you welcome the children in, you're keeping the employees there, because otherwise your employees are going to have to go at 2:15 now. 2:15 the ISD 709 school district ends to go pick up their kids. So if you think about your break in productivity, think about how that works. I encourage you to only hold meetings, important meetings, and especially employee-centered programming between 9 and 3. Make it a commitment to say that we know that our parents who have been working have worked a full-time job by the time they leave their house in the morning. Throwing a meeting at 8 a.m. is asking somebody to just put aside their second job and come right into their next job. Parents, you understand this, right? We've already packed lunches. We've had our battles and we're out the door. So think about that. If your programming is after 4 o'clock, you're asking them to choose, do I pick up my kids or do I come to work? And why does that have to be a choice? If you're going to do evening program, provide childcare, offer it at least, right? Offer it as an option if you're going to ask your employees to come in the evening. One I just saw yesterday, I think is the most fabulous thing, is if your employees are traveling for work, if you have a mother who is traveling for work who is nursing, you should be expensing a company called Milk Storks. Milk Storks will ship their milk back home for them. Think about the stress that you might relieve from an employee who is traveling, especially if you've got really depending on that person to run your organization. Can you ship their milk? Right. Again, ask your employees, what do they need?
And a question that came up a lot, because Andrea and I were always talking about this even before I had a kid, is what about our employees who have, adult children or don't have kids or don't plan to have kids? These policies do benefit everyone. For me, it was like, wow, if and when I decide to have kids, this is the kind of policy that will keep me in place. Like I can plan for this, I can look at this. And it also just makes it so if my coworker who has a kid is less stressed and more productive, my life's easier. It makes good business sense to take care of people.
Paid leave, full stop. If your organization is not examined, has not thought about how are you going to pay, create family leave. Again, this is not just for people with children, this is caretaking leave as well. How many people, anyone in here fall into this sandwich generation? This is going to be a really common place to be in. I'm taking care of both my kids and an aging parent, right? These times and policies have to adapt to be able to fit that. 10 awesome signs of a company culture. Your boss tells your team she's taking her son to football practice early on Wednesday afternoons. As leaders, as bosses, you model this, right? You take a sick day, you go to your kids' events and you tell people about it proudly, because it's up to you to showcase that this is the value that your company stands behind. You hear laughter often. Innovation and failures are welcome and not feared. The Company Handbook, again, we're talking about if you can't read it in 2 hours, it's too complicated. Simple, plain language. Your colleagues come from different backgrounds and nationalities. You're not hiring for fit, you're hiring for future. Meetings start on time. We respect people's time and space. Your kids are welcome to drop in anytime. My kids can't wait to be College of St. Scholastica students. Why? Because they are on campus a lot, because they have to be. And you know what? It makes me a more productive worker in the process. Let me tell you that. You're rarely the smartest person in the room. Gossip shut down quickly, and you're trusted to work from home if the job allows it. Yeah. One other area we're going to talk about very quickly is develop to grow, not develop to go. If you do not have an employee development internal plan, now is the time to start thinking about that too. Identify early to mid-career professionals at your organization who in the next 5 to 10 years might have the potential to run the organization. Identify them, harness them, give them additional responsibilities, mentor them, and develop them into the leaders you want to be. Stop looking outside for every leader you want to have and start looking inside to who the leaders you have that you can grow. When you create committees and task force, think about who you lead. Are you asking the same 5 people? Are you asking your leaders to run them? Or you're asking your early to mid-career professionals to lead them? Do they need to be led by the same professionals every time? Who's at the table? Who's invited to be at the table? Who's invited to be a part of those conversations? What is your leadership track? What does growth look like for your organization? How does somebody get from where they are to where they want to be? Ask them.
Yeah. And I think that a really, really key thing here I want to make sure is focused on is consultants, especially in this time when budgets are tight and everything. That is something that really hits employees the wrong way, especially when there's already internal knowledge. Let your employees consult internally. You are already paying them, so you don't have to pay an additional person. You don't have to do some expensive thing. They already know the company culture. They already know the underlying issues. You're going to get better recommendations, and it's going to be cheaper, and they're going to feel respected. They're going to say, my company trusts me to give advice on this situation where I am an expert. So ask, and your employees, they'll give it back.
So if you're wondering, how do I do it? I'm giving you a script right here. Feel free to take a picture of this if you want to, a script right here. If you have not had the conversations with your employees yet, if they're thinking of staying or they're thinking of going, now is the time. We call these stay interviews rather than exit interviews. What is the point of an exit interview once they're already gone? To find out why they were leaving, right? Instead, ask them what is going to keep them, what motivates and energizes you. How do you want to be communicated with? How can I value and recognize your success? Who can I connect you with? Where do you want to go from here, and how can I help you? Again, that boomerang, right? You counsel someone into where they want to go, then someday they might come back with even more skills and even more experience. But do you know every person you manage and where they want to be and how you're going to get them there?
Yeah, and just in the interest of time, we're going to skip this, but we will send the link out to this LinkedIn campaign. This is well worth looking at. And I think just what you can see on that title slide is over half of working women have left or considering leaving a job due to a lack of flexibility in the working week. And, you know, if you aren't seeing this, talk to your families and talk to your folks who have kids. Everyone's talking about this.
Yeah. And so when we consider flexibility, it's not just for parents, right? It's anyone who's worked remote. I can load a dishwasher in between meetings. I can do a load of laundry before my day starts instead of commuting and finding a parking spot. And that makes me a better worker and makes me a better human. I'm not distracted by conversations. I am part of this. So I want you to take just a minute and think about what flexibility work looks like for you, right? For some of you, it might be we can do remote work. We can do this. We've done it. We can trust our employees. We can make it work. We can do that in. For some of you, it might be we're going to offer shorter shifts. We're going to be aware of that 2:15 end of the school day and the bus drop off time. And we're going to make sure we have a shift that can only be done between school hours, because who is not in our workforce? So much as women with children, right? What does flexibility look like at your organization? And then thinking about this conversation, go back to that group you have that is working on retention and recruitment, and ask them, how would increased flexibility open us to new talent? As you post a new job, does it have to be in person? Does it have to be? Or could you suddenly open up your talent pool to anywhere in the world? And what will that do for your organization? We already adjusted to this radical rhythm. We know it works. Just want to post an example of an organization here of how they did it. Not just are we hiring, but we're open to part-time job shares, flexible roles, including 4-day work week requests. I challenge you to post this on your next ad and see what kind of a response you get.
So this is a comic that like we laughed at, and then we were like, oh, it's not actually funny. So thinking about how we can bend without breaking, and like, why does a policy exist? Why should we come back? Traditional, historically, way we've done things, and even policies that just make sense. Really dissect, why does this policy make sense? If we were to completely flip this policy, and I mean this with every single policy, the most sensible policy, just completely invert it and see. This is something we do in change management. Look at what things come up if you were to completely change your policy. If you are a company that works remotely, like my company, if we changed our policy to say everyone must come to the office, what would that change for us? I hope we never do that, because I don't want to move to California. I love, the North, but it's really interesting to reconsider your policies. And always remember, you've hired these people, you're paying them. They're capable of doing the job you hire them to do if you trust them to do that.
For the sake of time, we have a whole section here on flexibility we're going to skip, because we know that flexibility is the answer and you're going to adapt that in your 5% in some way. I want to make sure that you get to share Eric's tech tools. Patty's saying that a hybrid situation works really well for their, where people can say they miss their teams when they work remotely. Awesome. You know what? Give them the choice, right? Let them figure out what works best for them.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm going to actually copy this criteria and throw it into the chat as well. But this is my criteria I look at as a technologist when I'm recommending a new tool. 1, does it make the job easier or more efficient to do? 2, is this work location neutral, especially if you've got a hybrid or remote workforce? Something like Zoom benefits people who are in person, it benefits people who are remote. Things like Jamboard or digital whiteboards, tools that kind of level that playing field, make it so it doesn't really matter where you work, as long as it's being helpful. Technology tools are an investment. There's a lot of tools that are free, there's a lot of tools that are paid. Sometimes the free tool, compared to the $5 a month tool, takes you 10 more hours a month. Is your time worth more than 20 cents an hour? You should look at that and thinking about, does the cost of investing in a tool match the benefit? For larger organizations, are there existing tools that replicate features? Zoom and Google have expansive tool sets. Most people only use a fraction of them. Start to look at the tools you're already paying for, and see, do you really need to have one more tool? That kind of comes with number 5. Can you learn the tool quickly? How easy is that to learn? Can people learn it from the documentation? Or is it something they're going to need training on? Because training is tough and people don't like to learn technology tools. And then finally thinking about, if we have to leave this tool, can we get what we need off of it? If it's a scheduling tool, can we get a record of our appointments? If it's a database tool, something like Salesforce, can we pull what we need off of it? If it's a point of service machine, can you actually get your sales off of it? So really thinking about the whole life cycle of technology. These are the top 5 tools I'd recommend right now to everyone to check out. Google Workspace or Office 365, great value. If you don't have it, there's the free version, but there's also a $5 a month professional version. Fantastic tools. Digital presentation tools like we're using, documents, etc. Miro is a virtual whiteboard tool. Zoom has also introduced its own virtual whiteboard tool. Really great tool. I used to have a whole set of whiteboards in my office. I've stopped using them with these digital whiteboard tools because they're so powerful. Slack, or any sort of chat-based communication tool. So that might be WhatsApp, that might be something like iMessage, even Zoom itself has a chat-based thing. Something that is not email, that is not phone calls, that is not a video call, is a phenomenal way to improve your workforce. Something like Zapier, if you find yourself sending a weekly email, weekly reminders, things that just could be done automatically, a tool like Zapier lets you set schedules. It lets you say, when I get an email from this person, do this. I probably save about 4 hours a week just with the things I've automated. And finally, Calendly. If you're always playing calendar tag with folks, get Calendly. It's free for a personal version, and a work version makes it even more powerful. You literally can just share your open calendar slots. Someone can click a button against their own calendar. Really, really useful. Finally, last thing on creative uses of Slack. This is just what my current company uses to help improve employee retention and make people feel valued. 1, our C-suite has a channel that's open to the entire company that's Ask Me Anything. They will publicly answer any question that gets put in there. And they also have an anonymous form that will let people ask questions anonymously. People ask about pay, people ask about values, people ask about all sorts of things, and our entire C-suite will answer it. Project channels, team channels. So my entire team has 3 different channels where we all work together. We share memes. It's fun. There's social channels. I'm in one for Dungeons and Dragons and one for plants and one for new parents at the company. So really, really cool way to build community. And you don't even have to have like a synchronous time meeting to do that. We have things that recognize achievements, and actually our entire IT department is all run via Slack. So I literally just send a ticket that says, hey, I'm having an issue with this. They send me a message back, ticket's created, it's done. No phone calls, no emails. Yeah.
So again, we're going to ask you for that 5%, right? So we're out of time today. We won't have a chance to collaborate on this. We're hoping we'd have some time to come together. We'd love to do a multi-day workshop on this so we can bring this all together and ask you all to dive deep into your policies. Again, remember, we are available if you want to consult and ask us for more ideas in particular. We'll also send this Jamboard out link. Chris, maybe we can send this Jamboard link out later and have people think about what is something that is your takeaway that they could add later to share, thinking about what are you going to focus on, who are you going to help, what you need in terms of human-centered policies, talent, flexibility, and tech tools. Real quick, my 4 last resources I want to make sure you know. Next slide, Eric.
Yep.
Perfect. It's loading. Okay, next one. There you go.
There we
Thank
go.
This McKinsey is such an amazing resource if you want research. The Future Forum has an incredible report on the pulse of workplace. Deborah Isaac Schaefer has an incredible group on parenting in the workplace. And again, that Parenting in the Workplace Institute. Lots more resources we'd be happy to share with you. Lots more we have to share, but we're at our end of time today. So thank you for thinking about it. We encourage you. What are you going to do to flex? What are you going to do to adapt? 5% today. That's what we ask.
Andrea and Eric, thank you so much. That was fabulous. Thank you again to the College of St. Scholastica Stender School of Business and Technology for your sponsorship and allowing us to bring this topic to our chamber members. We are out of time here. Andrea and Eric, maybe if you want to stay an extra minute, we can answer any questions, but otherwise I will email out the recording of this session if you wanted to go back and review, send it with or share it with a colleague. And also both Andrea and Eric's contact information and any resources they want me to share with you. That way you're loaded up with all sorts of good information and where to go if you have any questions that you'd like answered or if you'd like to continue the conversation. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you all enjoy the really beautiful afternoon. And I appreciate you for being here.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.